Welcome to the Cervantes House Museum of Esquivias, a 16th century mansion that belonged to nobleman Don Alonso Quijada, and where the author of Don Quixote used to live. Many Cervantine biographers believe that a noble ancestor with the same name inspired the main character of Don Quixote de la Mancha. Inside the House Museum, we can find various editions of the Don Quixote, written in different languages from different eras. The oldest one is an English edition from the 17th century. Along with the Don Quixote books, there are copies of important documents exhibited belonging to the parochial books from the 16th century that prove the existence of some of the people that inspired the characters of the Don Quixote story and who lived in Esquivias at the same time when Miguel de Cervantes used to live in the house that we know today as the House Museum. The people of Esquivias were not the only source of inspiration for the great work of Cervantes. The corners of this house are also reflected in the work, like the library window from which they threw the books into the fire that made Alonso Quijano lose his mind. Those books on chivalry made Alonso Quijano transform himself into the main character of Don Quixote de la Mancha. Kitchens, cupboards, cobbled courtyards, the cellar, every corner of the house reflects the lifestyle of the people of the 16th century portrayed by Cervantes in Don Quixote. But the great value of this house museum and the town of Esquivias, for many Cervantes scholars, that place of La Mancha, referred to by El Quijote, are undoubtedly its people, those folk who inspired Cervantes for the characters portrayed in his universal work: noblemen, peasants, clergy, graduates. Among them, the main character, the nobleman that is mentioned, Don Alonso Quijada, who was fond of reading books on chivalry and lived in Esquivias in the late 15th century. He bears a strong resemblance with the main character of the work of Cervantes, Alonso Quijano, better known as Don Quixote. Pedro Pérez, the priest, Sansón Carrasco, Teresa Panza, Dulcinea, El Vizcaíno, and others have their counterparts among the inhabitants of the Esquivias of the time, authenticated by the various baptismal records and official documents. Sometimes the same names were used, and at other times, names, as in the case of Aldonza Lorenzo, the peerless Dulcinea, could have been made up using the first name of Cervantes' wife's cousin and one of the typical Esquivias surnames, Lorenzo, which hasn't been found anywhere else. The most recent discovery is the baptismal certificate of Sancho Panza, Don Quixote's faithful squire, that records that on June the 20th, 1569, a resident with the same name was born in Esquivias. Esquivias is the only town in La Mancha where characters from Don Quixote with similar names and surnames exist, which could have inspired Cervantes during the time he lived in the town. In this house, now known as the House Museum, where this valuable documentary resource is exhibited.